Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate prose. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Hey, pal. Okay. But I'm doing my show and I can't have you there, okay?
I haven't brushed my teeth and I need a glass of cold water.
Okay. Hey, man. Can you hear me? I think you are. Hang on one second. I think I might have you. You might be muted here on my end. I got you. I think now I got you.
How's it going?
All right, man. How are you?
Very good.
I'm just gonna drop. There's a few people in the waiting room. Let me just let them in here, so they'll be
Say that
privy.
again?
There's a few people here in the waiting room, so I'll just let them in. They'll be privy to all of our secrets before it officially starts. So just make sure you give all those away. Nice. Everybody's kind of flowing in. I think Ontario just is moving into phase 2, so people might be out getting haircuts or something. I don't know, whatever's open now. I'm trying to follow along, but the parks seemed fairly busy here today. Walking the dogs and playing all the games of
here.
yeah all the games of hide and seek that were being played were lots of
You
traffic.
can walk the dogs now?
Yep. Yeah. I've been walking them. We've been walking them for shoot, I don't even know. I don't know, and I've lost track of time the other way, which is great. Put them in a dog park today with no other dogs in it, and then the experiment began because other dogs came in. So it lasted a few minutes before the true colors were showing.
They're adapting well?
Yeah, I think so. They're starting to get the hang of things. The little one gets the big one going, the big one protects the little one, and then it just turns into a nightmare. But such is the dog's life.
Yeah, you'll probably hear my dog in the background when my daughter gets home.
Okay, no worries. This is
super happy. So.
yeah, this is all very real world stuff that's happening on these chats. So dogs, kids, thunderstorms, internet cutting out. That's the reality right now.
That's
so.
Stuff.
We'll give it another minute or so. I know there's a couple people just messaging me for the as always for the link.
True, I should check there too.
Yeah, check if you have any as well, because I know you threw that up on Instagram too, which is great. It's perfect. I mean, we got some regulars in here. And some that definitely knew you were coming on, and the angle and the a systematic approach to things. So we have a small-ish group, but that's great because that means a lot of people will be picking it up on the YouTube, because I think a lot of people are starting to go back to work and like drinking beers in parks and stuff, or whatever happens on
for sure.
on these things. So I will begin here shortly. Yeah. Okay, so ground rules for the evening for everybody that's in participation. I don't think we have any newcomers here just yet, but if we do, or if you forget, this is being recorded for the purposes of saving the world one conversation at a time. Going back in time and rehashing some of the conversations, tidbits, taking them out, going to find some readings, going to find some people, connecting people coast to coast and across the globe from an athletic therapy perspective. This is Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable. This is session 20. I think it's 25 already. 25. So at the quarter, I always get century and decade mixed up. So you get it. It's a quarter of 100. That's where we're at. And a really special guest on this evening. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them as you see fit, either through the chat or unmute yourself and have at it that way. I'm just going to get to Greg's bio here in a minute, but when I read it encaptured all of the things that we've talked about, Greg, and I read your bio, and there was nothing braggy about it, but yet it was so deep, and I showed it to a bunch of people. I was like, this is exactly the kind of professional that all of us need to be, and that all of us need to look up to, and that definitely all of us that aren't connected need to connect with. So I'll read the bio, and then I really just want to jump in and introduce you to everybody, and then we can get into the conversation, because I think this is going to be one of the better ones for sure. No pressure. Greg Lothian is the founder of Skilled Body and the creator of the Active Lifestyle Coaching Protocol, providing systematic training and reconditioning to people of all walks of life. He is renowned for his caring, understanding, coaching, and overall unrelenting pursuit to empower people to view their obstacles as challenges and support them in their effort to overcome and attain more than they think is possible. He spent many years developing the active lifestyle coaching protocol with the primary goal of showing the greater population and fellow practitioners how to embrace a cohesive approach to active living and effective training. Through his one-to-one coaching, Greg specifically designs long-term plans to help meet goals, build active living into his clients' daily lives. Through his unique approach, aptly called the Athletic Lifestyle Coaching Protocol, Greg offers fellow practitioners a learning experience that empowers them with the ability to understanding their clients' needs better and to create client paths, which lead to long-term success. He teaches practitioners how to leverage the skills they have and expand their impact across the 11 core elements of healthy active living. In short, Greg helps clients and coaches live better, healthier lives. His experience includes certification through the NSCA as a certified strength and conditioning specialist in 1997 and through the CATA as an athletic therapist certified in 1999. He's a former head conditioning coach and interim head therapist at the university level. He's previously owned a sports medicine clinic and a high-performance triathlon injury reconditioning clinic. He's worked in professional car racing, national level soccer, swimming, martial arts, and regional sports of many kinds. Greg is a full-time firefighter and practitioner, a mentor, husband, and father of 3. His 2 major sports are martial arts and rugby. Greg believes in standing up for what is right and doing everything he can to help those who are in immediate need and those who are willing to learn and to work to help themselves. The limit to one's potential exists only in one's mind. And I think we could just end it there. We don't even need to talk at this point. I'm getting rumors that I'm cutting in and out, or hearing that I'm cutting in and out. I'll apologize. I'll try to make that happen.
But cutting in and out for me.
Okay, perfect. What an amazing bio. And you really, there's a message saying it might be a little bit hard to hear you. Yeah, there we go. That might do it. An amazing bio that really captures everything that you are. And you've been in the professional ranks and you've done a lot of things in your career. So I think for a lot of the younger practitioners and some of us older practitioners that are looking to do something new and do something a little bit more impactful, this is where this conversation can go. But I'll let you say hi to everybody and just sort of catch up. I know Julie and you are quite close. Julie introduced Greg and I a few months back while we were still in Bahamas. Greg and I have chatted a few times, but I'll let you say hi, and then I got a couple quick questions for you before we dive into the real stuff.
Yeah, well, it's it's great to be here. It was super awesome that can you guys hear me properly now?
Yeah, Aces sounds great.
Closer, so yeah, it was good that Julie introduced us, because I think we're really sort of aligned with we work in slightly different with slightly different clientele, but very the holistic approach. And really, I think athletic therapy, the great thing that turned out for me in athletic therapy is that it's such a good base to do many different things. The difficulty of it is you really got to be a self-starter. You gotta do, you gotta really want it. And there's definitely some challenges. So, my whole thing about helping people, especially, I've been in athletic therapy. I never deviated out of athletic therapy. I only did my conditioning stuff, to help my athletic therapy career, to bring athletes back to the field, industrial athletes back to work, that sort of thing. But I feel like I'm one of the few that has really stuck it out, because I really believe that it's a great place to start. And it's a great place to build a really well-rounded career. And if I can help people put that together over the long haul, sometimes it is a bit of a long haul, then that'd be awesome for me. That's everything I want, is help people build like really viable careers. And it's a great place to be. So.
Yeah, it's an awesome starter, and I've noticed that too in my sort of 10 plus years in the field of athletic therapy, never sort of deviating from the athletic therapy foundation. Like that's the backbone of everything that I do, and then the supplemental learning on the side just really adds some options, allows you to get off the highway and go on the dirt road. It allows you to get off the highway and pull over for gas. It lets you to just do a lot of different things as a foundational piece. And I think that's amazing that you sort of center around athletic therapy, and that's key for everybody too. And it is such a rich profession in terms of how much we do. It's just sometimes we pigeonhole ourselves themselves a little bit. And I'm guilty of it too. I can only work with athletes. I can only work with a team. I only want to work in professional sport. You do that for a little while, and then somewhere along the way you realize, okay, there's a lot more out there. Maybe there's some more value that I can provide. Maybe there's a little bit more freedom in terms of scheduling, or in terms of creativity, where you have a little bit more when you're on your own or working in sort of an integrative environment to do some things that are a little bit more creative or align with your value system. So I know you have these 11 pillars of wellness or physical health that you work with your clients, and these are things that that everybody on here can get familiar with. And you offer courses, right? For so maybe we'll start there and just talk about your courses and how you integrate those, because I think a lot of the athletic therapists on here that have been on here regularly, either new or have been around for a little bit. This is a time, right? We could jump in, connect, and just sort of start to see things a little bit more broadly, but at the same time with a greater depth to it. So I'll let you sort of speak to your coaching style.
I think where it all started for me is, it's great working in a high performance world and stuff, but as we all know, it's tons of nights and weekends, lots of running around, lots of variability in your income, and it can be tough. It can be really trying, and I could have, people asked me, especially when I was really in it with the university and I had the high performance studio, and that pathway to go pro was available, and I was never really that interested in it, for the sole reason that it's a really difficult lifestyle to maintain for a long period of time. I already had a kid at that point, and so for me it was about taking that university model that I worked in, that worked so well for the athlete, and then bringing it to, I had my own studio, and really sort of bringing that whole thing. And it took me years to figure out all of the missing parts. Like in athletic therapy, it gave a really good base of understanding of injury, all the stuff that you could work with performance, and it was really the whole line. I always envisioned this timeline, and there's a YouTube video out there with me talking about it, but and the timeline is everything from like incapacitated injury to high performance training, and the trick is to get from wherever they are to wherever they need to be, which may or may not be all the way to either end or whatever.
Right.
And athletic therapy really gave, I think, us the base to be able to work a larger section of that line. Like, you're not stuck in the early phases of rehab. You're not working at the highest end of high performance. You can really pick and choose what you want. And as I developed my career, I started filling in the spaces, and this took many years because it wasn't out there already, which is why I created the course, is to figure out, okay, if we look at that as the timeline, what are all the stages, and what am I good at? What do I want to work at? Where do I see myself?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I turn myself into, especially in the the general, I say general population, but the population that's outside of professional sports and university, how do I fill in those spaces that, in a professional environment are already there? I wasn't the nutrition guy. At the time, I wasn't the sports psychologist guy. I needed to look at this whole gamut of things that could possibly we could possibly work on with somebody, and turn myself into the point person for that general public person. Because in the university model, in the professional model, an athlete comes in, and that's what you are. You're what is it you need? Let's find it for you. Let's get you to exactly where you want to go. And in the public world, it was, I have this problem, and you have a Band-Aid, and you have a very limited amount of time to figure it out, a very limited budget to correct what's going on. I needed to break away from that, because I'm one of these kinds of people that I cannot be handcuffed by rules for the sake of rules. I was just, okay, I'm going to build this on my own. So one of the earliest things I did was break away from the pay by session model. I give clients receipts if they want them after we've met, but I tell them right off the bat, I don't charge by session. I charge a coaching fee, and we just do whatever we have to do. And then what I'm showing other people is you don't need to be the expert in everything. You don't need to have all of the tools. You can do what you love to do. And a great way to develop your career is to know all of the spots that need to be filled. So those 11 components, I don't work in all of those components.
Right.
But I have network alliances, I have friends, I have forms, I have all of the things that I need to be able to fill in the other components so that my clients see me as the go-to person for, whatever comes up. And that it's really the only way that you can, work the way I work, where people are just, paying me a retainer to work with me. And I don't, the other thing that I do is, if somebody wants to work with me, they have to work with me for a year. There's no other option.
Yes.
Because, and that came back to the, in the public world, the variability in your, I'm sure everybody knows the variability in your income seasonally, it would drive me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe because of a bad planner, but.
No, I think these are all these are all amazing points. I'm making a page full of notes. I have a couple pages from the last couple times that we've talked, and I see a bunch of people on here just making some notes, and you talk about so many good things. I don't know where to start. This liaison sort of role, right, in the university. Everybody on here everybody on here is a practitioner, and I'm just looking through all the names. And then my dad's not a practitioner, but I know he's been to university. So everybody's been to university, and all the therapists on here have been privy to that model, right? And in Canada, I think majority of everybody's Canadian. Sasha's here, and she's down. She did her ATC in Oklahoma, but everybody understands that what an AT is or an ATC is when you're it. Athletes come to you for everything, and you have to play all of those rules. At least temporarily, but you do not have to be everything to everybody. And that's where growing the networks and filling that, it's such a great analogy, or just analysis of either you have that timeline, and then you have those 11 facets that you go to, and whichever ones you're great in, be great in those, be good in the other ones enough to know who you can turn to, build your networks. And that's what this Zoomcast has really been aimed at, is connecting people, opening people's eyes to what an integrative conversation sounds like, to what an integrative model can be, and really looking at, and this is where you and I sort of, and Julie's on here, so I'll just thank her publicly for connecting us. Julie Dixon, thank you so much, because we just aligned. I just really, when I heard you say, let's take this university model and apply it to the public, it's looking at sort of our health culture. And what we do is, when somebody gets hurt, what do? They self-splint, right? They make sure they're not dead, and then they rely on somebody else to get them better. And that's not a healthy model for anybody to get better. And I'm guilty as a practitioner of being that person that, you're going to depend on me. I'm going to do everything to get you better. But that's not a healthy model for a practitioner either, right? No. So you've really spun it to make it a 50-50 meet in the middle. You'll coach, you'll keep clients for the time that you need, and they can come see you as needed throughout those periods as well. So it's a really, really great model for sustainability, but also for that's the reality. You want to work with somebody and actually make change. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to be over time, right? Is that a fair statement? It's not just for your pocket.
So I get this question a lot too. It's well, wait a second, you're asking people, and earlier in my career, I would have asked the same question. It's well, somebody comes to you injured. How could you get them to sign up for a year? Why would you get them to sign up for a year? It's well, to be honest, I don't do early stage rehab anymore. Somebody, if a client of mine blows their ankle out doing something, yeah, I'll I'll do the rehab because we already have a relationship. But
Yeah.
one of my network connections is if somebody comes in and they need like really intense, they need to be there 3-4 times a week. So, they have no range and, they really need that intensive model. Then a friend of mine, Jennifer, she does that. And, breaking away from that anxiety inducing push your client away to somebody else and possibly never see them again,
Mm-hmm.
proved itself to be completely wrong. Because when I started doing that and I started reaching out to other practitioners around, finding out what it was exactly that they did, and how we could work together, I ended up coming across some practitioners that really aligned well. And so it's I forget where I was going at the beginning of this, but it ended up like we're talking about network and stuff like that, and how to develop it. It's that whole, like, one of the earliest things that I do with my students that I work with is we sort of map out what the 11 components are, and I get them to fill in what they love to do, and then start making phone calls, and start filling in the blanks, and don't be afraid to tell a client that you're not the ideal person to work with them right now, because all of the people that I've referred out, I probably have 5 or 10 times the amount of people that have come back. Oh yeah, that's where I started with it. So the 12 months thing, it's so if somebody comes to me early stage, I send them to Jennifer.
Yep.
If not, they come, like I had a guy come in today and tons of back pain. It's not hard to talk to somebody about how long it's going to take them. And this guy was an arborist. It's like, I mean, it took you've had this for 15 years. You've
Yep.
seen 10 other practitioners. People are telling you that you're going to have to stop doing what you're doing. And so, I sit down. I don't charge for my first session at all, because it's really just because I know if they're going to work with me, they're going to work with me for a year. Sit down, figure it out, look at some MRIs, find out, hey, am I the best fit for the job? And then talk to them, say, like, listen, there's a lot of work involved here. And they're very rarely, actually, the only person I really turned away in the last year was one of my mom's friends who came. And when I asked him, I was like, well, how invested are you in this on a scale from 1 to 10? And I specifically asked that question because 12 months is a long time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them a lot of work to do. We're going to meet often. They have to be on time. All of these things, all of these parameters. If they're not an 8 an 8 or a 9 or a 10 out of 10, I don't take them. And so this particular guy was like, well, I'm a 6 out of 10. And sometimes you get that. And sometimes it's just out of skepticism because, not a lot of practitioners work the way I work. And we're talking about working together for 12 months, and it's longer than most gym memberships.
Yep.
And so he said, so when I asked him, I was like, okay, well, what would get you from a 6 to an 8 or a 9 or a 10, And he said nothing.
Okay. All right.
I was like, okay, well, then you should see somebody else but it's really not, I mean, we see so many clients that are, if they're going to high performance or they're, industrial athletes like this guy, that one of the things that we talked about, and you did an interview with Scotty too, eh?
Yep.
And one of the earliest things that I learned from Scotty when he went into the pro field was it wasn't about bringing high performance to the NHL. I mean, it was already there. What it was decrease lost man hours.
Right.
And decreasing lost man hours is not just about resolving an injury fast. It's about making robust athletes.
Yep.
And when you talk to some of these industrial athletes, it's the same thing. It's like an arborist at this time of year, how much time can you take off? And he's like, yeah, I can't take any time. Right. They've got to perform, and they got to perform on a regular basis. And being in the firefighting world myself too, I can't be injured. You can't go to work injured. So.
And I think like, yeah, it's so almost commonsensical that it's hard to fathom. It's hard to understand, because we look at high performance, we look at pro sport, we look at it in a certain light. And there's the other side of it that pro sport or pro athletes are really good at being pro athletes. But the outside of that, like their bodies don't function like the rest of normal population or the general population. And that's one thing we leave aside in even when we're in that. Make them as robust as possible, make them as variable as possible within what they're doing. But outside of that, it's kind of like, oh, okay, all right, good. We got a whole bunch of external rotation. We got a whole bunch of internal rotation. Look at that hip move. Great, awesome. It can do what it needs to do to go skate a certain distance and do the things it needs to do. And you talk about industrial athletes and the general population. And if we're looking at this as athletic therapists and we're saying there's not enough jobs out there, well, the reality is that there's a ton of work out there, because the general population is the masses. And if you want, and I'm talking to myself right now, because I started my career, in professional sport, and that was the drive. And I still definitely have the drive to work in that realm with those athletes and help them along with some other facets as well. But there's so much greater variance in tissue and injury and capability and training age. Like, this is challenging. So to work with the general population, and I don't think general population, maybe we need to change that, the wording of it. But
really the industrial athletes and
yeah.
Outside of industrial athletes would be like, I mean, if you want to call them recreational athletes, there are some serious athletes that are nowhere near pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
They really want to be able to perform, compete, whatever it is at the level that they're doing. Maybe they're playing rugby, or they're CrossFitters, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's interesting. You say, like, it can be difficult to work with that population. It's what I've seen actually is in the pro world, although sometimes they're more invested, when you look at biomechanical changes and foundational changes, it can be extremely difficult to change a minor biomechanic in an athlete that has so many repetitions.
Yeah.
It's that I try and educate my clients and as much as I can, and I talk to them about the 500 5,000 rule. Like, if I teach you something the first time, you've never done it before, you repeat it 500 times, it's going to start to develop into a reflex. If I need to change something subtly that you're doing, it's going to take minimum 5,000 repetitions to rewrite that.
Mm-hmm.
And in where I'm capturing people right now is, they may have done some training and stuff like that. Certainly the guy I met with today had done training and stuff like that. But you're capturing them at a good time. And if you really know the timeline well, and you can identify exactly where they are, not where they think they are, but where they are on the timeline, then you know exactly what steps you need to be taking to get them to where they need to be. And sometimes, like I say, I've worked with some pro athletes that were just more difficult to work with because they had their own set of ideas, and oftentimes they're young and still in that semi-indestructible phase, especially when the chronic stuff is happening. Whereas, these industrial athletes that are coming at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, they are heavily invested in learning whatever it is they need to learn to get better.
Yeah.
And the time.
100%. And we've talked about it sort of from a different angle, and that's looking at infiltrating, let's say, penetrating our way into amateur sport, where you can make massive foundational changes versus like this high-end sport athlete that's done it for 15 years and is either ego restricted or neuromuscularly restricted, where they just that like you said, that change is going to take far more, and it may disrupt some of the other things in actuality that are going on in their life or in their performance. So some amazing discussion on that angle. And I think, like, for those of you coming out of school or that have never considered, have only considered pro sport as an option, like, it's a good starting point for sure. It gives you, and it has a lot of perks and things like that, but there's a ton of opportunity with with the everyday athlete or the industrial athlete or the gen pop, whatever we're going to call them. So,
or even if your idea is to, work in pro for a while, like I wanted to get back to the university system. I wanted to work in it. It was fun. I enjoyed the environment.
mm-hmm.
But I always knew that I had sort of that exit plan that,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna learn what I can learn here, and I can, develop some skills. But I knew going into the lifestyle that I wanted for the long term wasn't going to be this travel, 50 times a year. And even when I was approached for the race team that I worked with, they were looking at traveling, and I was like, well, yeah, I just I won't do that. We'll have to come up with some other model for it, because I was right at the point where I was transitioning into just, having at least a home base that could carry me. But yeah, there's multiple phases to this. One of the guys that I'm coaching now, like mentoring at least, he's young. I mean, I think he's 20, or yeah, he's 20. And, it's when we started looking at, what his skill set is, he was really strong in nutrition, really liked doing that sort of coaching, and is going into kinesiology. And I worked with him for years before that anyway.
Yeah.
But, it's having that long-term plan and letting him know, like, yeah, you can have, this is what you do now. And as long as you know what the 11 components are, then over your years, you can fill other components. And, like, oh, I love to do this. Well, one of the other questions I get a lot is like, well, what's CUs? What program should I do? What new things should I learn? Whatever. When you know exactly where you're going, what the 11 components are, then you know exactly which courses you should be taking.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to, we've all, most of us have gone to courses that turned out to be a complete waste of time for our particular environment that we were working in at the time. You couldn't use those skills right there. It's like, well, if you have a plan to exit out of that environment into an environment where you can use it, then, maybe you can table that for a little while and take something that's more relevant to what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and trying not to be, again, coming back around, try not to be everything to everybody, but also trying not to be everything for yourself all at once. You got to take your time and let it evolve. Let your thought process really align with, people that you connect with, people that you enjoy listening to, or challenge your current way of thinking, but also value your current way of thinking. I think those are a couple of great points that you made. And continual growth in this profession. You just have so many options. You have so many options for skilled courses, for working with other practitioners, these kinds of things. And I just had an opportunity this past couple of days to lead a little retreat, and there's a couple other practitioners there, one fresh out of school, one very established practitioner, and 5 athletes, a few CFL athletes, and then a wrestler. And I left just being like, man, that was amazing. Like, they take in so much, but I also relied heavily on the practitioners for their feedback and like, hey, like, did this work for you as a practitioner? And then let's go beyond practitioner and let's go beyond athlete. And like, human beings need this stuff. They need to understand themselves. They need to understand the primary or the foundational components. And if it jives with them, and for me, I've been out for a long time, but the foundational components of human performance, just being a human, you need to be able to breathe, and you need to have a mind that works, and they need to be connected. And then movement needs to filter into those two, because movement drives, both, and both of those drive the other way. So it's really come back around to keeping it really, really simple. We had Ryan Atkinson, who's a biomechanist with swimming, and he works for CSIO. And anyway, he was just talking about keeping it simple, and that's what works for me, not trying to get too advanced and taking a lot of courses and done those things, but ultimately it comes back down to like foundational knowledge. And really moving into a space where you can use those things that you resonate with. And then speaking of space, that's your space right behind you. You have
magic happens.
Yeah, right here. So let's talk about that, because a lot of people are like, where am I going to be able to apply this? How do I apply this? How much space do I need?
My first rendition of this whole thing that I was doing is I opened a clinic in I'm always bad with years. It was, I guess it was 2002 or 2003. And I was, one of my partners was a physio and the other one was an osteo. And we had a very small space. And all I made sure was, and it's easier to create now because I think more people are cognizant of it, is that I had some floor space to work in. If you look behind me here, so my facility where I do my coaching, it's 400 square feet. And in 400 square feet, I could have multiple people in here and I can coach multiple people at the same time because my system is education based. But if you're looking to create, let's say you're working in an environment right now, and it could be in a clinical environment. All you got to do is you got to carve yourself out a little bit of space, a little bit of floor space, so that you can, you need enough space to educate people. To educate people. And I guess one of the simplest ways to look at, one of the terms I use with my clients all the time is blind postural awareness is one of the things that I teach. And everything is always under increasing stress. So I teach them early on. So like a lot of us do, teaching how to control what's going on with your lower back. And one of the problems that I've seen in a lot of the systems is, oh yeah, okay, you got a lot of good control over your lower back. And even, what's it called? The Gray's system, where they're doing
the
screening.
FMS. Yep.
It's the FMS. The FMS is done under no stress. And one of the problems happen to be, and there's a really simple way to test this, is as soon as you exit out of the zero stress environment and you start adding any kind of stress to the body, you'll see that their ability to dissociate certain parts of their body that you need them to have control, blind postural awareness of, and control over, it starts to fail really early. And so, like the one I see the most often, planks are really popular, right? So we teach how to position yourself into a neutral spine position, which, for those of you that have been taught that it's somewhere between full extension and full flexion, that's not what neutral spine is. But it's, if we can teach them into that position. So the position I happen to teach is go fully into extension and then back off until you don't feel anything. The problem with that position, is you don't feel anything.
Right.
How do you monitor something that has no feeling? So we teach them how to monitor it by repetition, and then use that small space to slowly add stress. So a simple test, if people are skeptical of what I'm trying to teach them, is put them into a plank. As soon as they can achieve a good neutral spine position or have control of what's going on with their lower back, then put them into a plank and ask them to do it again. And like 90% of the people plus cannot do that. And the assumption has been for too many years that if they can do this now, they have control over it, they'll be able to do it in a stressful environment. And really having that little bit of space where you can use your imagination for whatever it is, whatever sport they're doing, whatever industrial sport they're doing, recreational, whatever it is, start applying stress to the things that you're teaching them in the environment they're going to use it. Like in firefighting for us, I mean, there's in particular, there's two that are really hard, high stress things that you have to do. One is dragging hose around corners of a house that's full. It's a really, you're in a lot of difficult positions, leaning down, pulling things along, whatever. And the other one that very few people associate with firefighting is, if we think that something's in the ceiling, we got to pull the ceiling down.
Right.
And doing all of those activities and being able to really monitor what's going on with your back, your shoulders, your, upper back, whatever it is that the person, the problem they came with, you need to be replicating what they're doing and doing it in such high repetition that you need that little bit of space. You just need a tiny bit of space to be imaginative and slowly add stress to them and monitor the things that they're supposed to be paying attention to. Work the weakest link is what I call it.
Yeah, it's amazing to sort of look at it that way, to analyze it that way, and to see, a small space that's in your house. It's very convenient. Like there's no,
Commute's great.
yeah. Now for sure,
Yeah.
that commute's nice and easy. You can fall asleep and wake up, and you're already there. So that's great. I don't know, the small space. Again, it comes back to sort of some of us that have always associated. Pro sport or working with a certain clientele. Your clinic has to look a certain way or be a certain way. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters if you don't have a client-centric focus to begin with. And we've talked about this with virtually every practitioner that's been on here, almost to the point that, and every athlete and every coach that's been on here, almost to the point like that's common sense. But that's not the reality when you go out into the real world in most clinics, where it's
my first clinic had industrial carpet.
Yeah.
That's what we had. We couldn't afford to change it. I was early in my career, and it was like, yeah, okay, well, let's do it. Like, you gotta
work with what you got.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, just the angle, the model, the way that you teach and learn it, learning your clientele is massive. Understanding what they do, and that doesn't happen in a 15-minute session where you slap a modality on them, plug it into the wall, and then turn the corner and go get the next person, bring them in. It just doesn't work, and the model doesn't work.
And a great avenue that turned out for me in that, just thinking about that in itself is, first of all, you don't need to know every sport. Somebody comes in and they have, whatever, maybe you never worked with an arborist before. I happen to know a bunch of them just because the nature of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was the first time somebody's walking in, now I gotta figure that out. Well, with athletes, and one of the really great networking things that I did in my career is be willing to phone their position coach up, whatever it is, even if they're not associated with your clinic. And first of all, the client themselves, if you're talking about, maybe you're talking about junior sports or whatever, where they're really, flipping the bill on their own, and there's really not a lot of connectivity between, coaches and nutrition and all that, athletic therapy, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they say like, oh, I'm really trying to achieve this, like, oh, you know what? I need to learn more about exactly what you do so that we can continually add, I don't put it this way, but add stress, appropriate stress as we're going through the rehab or performance thing. Why don't you give me your coach's number? I'm going to call them. And the client themselves are usually blown away by the fact that you're willing to take the time, invest some time in them. And I'm not billing them for that because it's a network association for me. So I contact that coach, and that coach is super appreciative. And you talk to them about, what your philosophy is and what you're trying to do. I really need to learn from you too. Like, where is this athlete's deficits or this employee's deficits or whatever it is? How can we make them better at what they do? And they are more than willing to have that conversation with you. And then they are going to send more people to you than they send to anybody else because you have that open dialogue. They can, I always let my clients and my associations know that, if there's something going on, call me up. And I tell them, like, if I can't answer my phone, I'm not going to answer my phone. Because people are always worried. It's like, well, maybe I don't want to disturb you. So you can't disturb me because if I'm busy, I'm not going to answer my phone. But send me an email, send me a text or whatever. We'll find a time to chat. And it's part of having that integrated model.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think you need to, get financial gain from that, you're losing in the long run. You're fighting for pennies and losing dollars. It's really, it pays off huge in the long run to create that network. So.
Yeah, amazing. And I think these are the things we sometimes, myself included, you sometimes get stressed out about the wrong things and you start searching for how am I going to make money? Well, if the focus is how am I going to help people, it's through being honest, it's through bringing people in and really offering your services and knowing some other people that you can refer out to, right? Like, it's interesting. Just had this conversation briefly over the weekend too, or the past couple of days. Um, Clients or athletes being treated sort of like as territory. It's like, that's my athlete. Look at what my athletes are doing. And practitioners who use that language, I'm just slowly creeping further and further away from now in this later stages, or this middle stage, or this new stage of my career. They're not territory. They're not your athlete. They are an athlete for sure. And they work with you, but without, it always brings me back to the picture of the therapist or the strength coach on the sideline. And if you remove the therapist or the strength coach from the sideline, those athletes are still going to athlete, And if you remove the athletes and you have a therapist or a strength coach on the sideline, ain't much going on,
No.
Other than the dudes who can take their shirts off and do a whole bunch of stuff walking around on their hands or look good in whatever they look good in on Instagram. But yeah, some really great depth here with your angle. And how about your clients specifically? How important is it for you to understand what motivates them?
So in the 11 components, I've actually split it up into health being one thing. So like internal health.
Yep.
So we're talking about like nutrition, recovery, sleep, all these types of things. Then we look at like physical performance, physical abilities. So go everything from that timeline from injured to high performance.
Yep.
And the third aspect of it is the mental side of things. And early in my career, I was already overwhelmed with all of the things that I needed to know about athletic therapy and all the things that I didn't know, and that so I didn't ever want clients that I needed to motivate. And it wasn't until later in my career that I started taking courses on figuring out that the human psychology side of things. I work heavily in that right now, because when you're outside of somebody who is trying to be at the pinnacle of a sport and really driven in the general population, they're fighting against a lot of things. And if you're not dealing with their psychology, then, kids and work and spouses and second jobs, they can trump a lot of things, financial problems, all of these things, so you have to have either someone in your network that's really good at this, that is willing to work with you, or learn some of the basic things. And this is what I do in part of my courses: teach people some of the most basic things that are super powerful in being able to help build somebody's internal locus of control, internal motivation, because you don't want to babysit this constantly, but you definitely want to pull back to it and be able to pull them out of some of the things that are really difficult. Early in my career, when I wasn't dealing with it properly, there was one client in my mind that really sticks out. Great guy, traveled, owned his own company, was traveling North America a lot, needed to lose weight, had a tremendous amount of back pain, and we started working together. And so I'd give him some stuff to do, and then like a week and a half or 2 weeks later, after he had sort of done all his homework, he had to come back, and he'd come back and say like, yeah, I was traveling, I didn't get a lot done. Okay. So that's in my mind, that was the first sort of strike. It's really important that you do it, because it's basically a waste of my time and a waste of your money if you don't. Yeah, I understand. Okay, great. After this happened the second time, I stopped him right there and I said, okay, so this is what's actually going to happen. You call me when you've done your homework. And I never saw him again. So now, it's a little gratifying, to be honest, to be able to fire a client sometimes. because there are some clients that do need to be fired.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I look at it now like, yeah, there was some early work that I didn't do there. I may not have taken him on in the first place because I didn't understand some of the things that were going on, and I didn't plant the right seeds at the right time to be able to either filter him out early or get him on board so that he never misses his stuff. Because one of the things that people have to understand is every time a client we've all had somebody walk in and talk about another practitioner and say, yeah, I went to see James, but it didn't help. And if you had heard that conversation, whoa, I gave you a ton of stuff to do and you didn't do any of it.
Yeah. Right.
Now you're talking to me, you're talking negatively about me. And this is affecting, for all of you that aren't facing this head on, this is affecting your reputation. And I'm one of those types, like I'm bad enough for my own reputation. I don't need somebody else to be bad for my reputation.
Well said. That's well said.
So it's really like, so I had a heavy vested interest in, okay, I need to understand these people a little bit better. I need to know who to filter out and who I can turn to. They may seem like they're not going to do anything and in their past. So you talk about their past, especially when you're talking about, knee patients that have, need a tremendous amount of weight loss or something like that, that you listen to their past and you're like, wow, you didn't really do a lot of, you don't sound, my earlier self might have said, well, you don't sound really motivated and you failed a bunch of times, where now I've actually taken some of those clients that came with knee pain and left having lost 150 pounds because of the conversations we had on the first day or the first couple of days that we met. Yeah. We're like, okay, you're, if it's knee pain and they need to lose 150 pounds, a lot of us would skirt around that conversation. Yep. Like, oh yeah, well, I can help you with your knee pain. And in the back of your mind, you're saying, yeah, we're going to try and give him cardio. You gotta head on. It's like, yeah, your knee pain's bad now, but you obviously have, you're struggling and this knee pain's only going to get worse. I can make you feel better, but not long-term. And when you can start to do that stuff, you can start to really understand what's going on. It's actually, going back to what you said, it's simpler than it seems. There are some very simple things you can do to make sure that your clients are in the right headspace for the long term, and you don't have to babysit the whole thing.
It's amazing. And like that honest and deliberate approach to, this is how things are going to go. I am certainly going to guide you on how and what and when to do things. But if you don't do them, this is it. This is shifting the power away from the practitioner and putting it on the athlete, the client, the whoever you're working with. And this is the model that works. And so you and I talked about this earlier on today, just when we chatted briefly. And that's like heavy front loading of things for not less work later on, but like that's where you got to get everything rolling and situated. Like you really need to spend that time early on. And as I was thinking about talking about this right now, Dr. Desai was on, who's a foot and ankle orthopedic surgeon, trauma surgeon. And he talked about just writing his own protocols for his ankle surgeries, because he does some pretty innovative things. He's up on the research. He challenges for when to use what and how to do, which technique. And if he's working with an athlete, it's going to be different than like a high performance athlete versus, somebody who doesn't need this certain range of motion or whatever. But writing his own protocols takes him a whole bunch of hours at the front end, but it saves him a whole lot of time in the middle and the long run. And I'm not saying we all need to save time, but where I don't have to call him at week 3 to see if am I doing the right things? What's next? Because he's written the protocol. And so those are kind of things that I sort of parallel with what you're saying. That front ended and really having those conversations early on sets you up as a practitioner for success for sure, because you're getting more depth. and also them, and it builds the trust. It's no longer about going in their pocket. It's about creating a relationship of trust, of guidance,
And that's
and
an
of
easy
coaching.
trap. That pocketbook trap that I used to get caught in all the time, worrying about, like, how much is this going to cost them? When I first started doing full biomechanical assessments, I would do them with every client. The first couple of times, whatever, the first year, I think this was, it was way back anyway. I'm looking at this, I'm like, no, we got to do the full biomechanical assessment. Well, my assessment, because it goes through, everything from imbalances to dissociation to old injuries to, more multifaceted movements and all that sort of stuff, so that I can get a really good picture of what's going on, could take a couple of sessions.
Right.
And then I might give them a couple of things, and then they come back, and I would make them a priority list of all of the things that, here are all the things that I found. Here are the things that really need to be changed. Here are the things that we could maybe look at later, or may spontaneously correct when we correct these things, whatever. And here's your first program to start.
Right.
Well, billing by the session in the client's head, I got one exercise program for $350.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had to change my model. So one of the things that I did, because we do need to front load it, we do need to get the information. For me, I do need to create that priority list. I still do that now, is one of the driving forces behind working with people long-term, is because, instead of charging them in the first 2 weeks, for sometimes like $600, if you add all the sessions together, you can spread that out over time, and you're going to be working for a year. What you give at the beginning, you'll make up for it in the end. And not only that, but when you're just charging, the way I charge, when I tell them, like, okay, so this is the basic thing, is the premise is that we meet every second week, because 3 weeks is often too long, and 1 week sometimes is just not enough time, especially in the real world.
Right.
So I tell them that, and then I tell them, this is the cost of the contract, whatever. But by the way, in the first 2 weeks, we're going to meet like 6 times. And it's a bonus for them, because they're like, oh shit, really? Oh, wow, that's awesome. It's like,
yeah.
And then by the time we get through the first couple of sessions, they're like, wow, I have never been through a process like this, when it's really just the process we all want to be able to do, but especially in a clinical setting or a time limited setting, they're very difficult to do. So, one of the things I try and teach people that are really into that, like, clinical setting, and they're an employee, they have to work in that model. It's okay. If you're going to work in that model, here's how to divide it up, because you got to get through that information, but it can't be so front loaded that, the client is seeing an exercise program on a sheet of paper or an app or whatever, for $300 or $400,
Right.
So there's a couple of ways to approach that front loading, but we do need to do that, because it sets you up for success later.
Yeah, 1000% agreed, and I love it. I love the stories that transition in. I love the way that you deliver it, and your understanding and knowledge of the whole system and structure and how you want to do things and look at things. And there's a lot of sort of, like, I think a few students that are just coming out. They're just coming out in the world, and, like, we talked about it again in the past couple of days. Like, the foundations of athletic therapy, or the foundations of physiotherapy or chiro, whatever people are doing coming out of school, are great. You need those. You need to understand that a history needs to be done, and you need to understand an assessment needs to be done in 30 minutes, and a full session is a luxury if you can have 45 minutes with a person. But when you get out and make your own model of how you want to do things, shoot, if your history doesn't take 30 minutes on its own, you're probably missing a lot of information. And again, that's in a structure that, or a place, or an existence that allows for it. If you got a game in 2 hours, and you got to see six of the tennis athletes that you need to see before they go out, or whoever, it doesn't work. But when you can sort of be creative and look at this holistically, value, like it's not about dollars, it's about outcomes, and it's about people, and it's about relationships, and it's about doing all the things that you've touched on already. As you were speaking, somebody's on here, Scotty sent over, Scott Howitt, who's a good friend and a colleague and mentor too, who's been on as a guest. He sent over a quote about motivation, saying motivation is the art of getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. Right.
Yep.
And this is an Eisenhower quote, but that's it. like that's it.
And that's exactly right. It's, like motivation is, in the fitness world is, they got it backwards, because as soon as, if you are the driving, external motivation never lasts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the driving force behind it, then as soon as they stop working with you, they're going to fail. And then when they fail, they're going to say it was you.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's the protectionist model. But if you're really in it for the client, you got to build that internal locus of control.
I want you to walk away with a whole lot more than a paper full of exercises when you leave here. I want you to be a better human being, or a better athlete, or a better therapist every time we have a conversation. And in doing so, I want to be better too as a practitioner. So it's a two-way street, and everybody wins as the evolution of what you're doing, and what I hope to be doing, and what everybody on here is doing on a day-to-day, when you can take that time and build it two ways. And that becomes very, I guess, organic, but like that becomes very natural in that style of environment that you set up. It's amazing to hear, and it's refreshing.
In all our environments, raise your hand if you've ever had a client that you've emotionally supported while giving them therapy.
Yeah, every single hand, even the ones that don't have pictures, just went up. Yeah.
It's you got to be prepared for it, and it's part of the process, because they may be going through something that I had a client last year. It was this, all of a sudden he's like, this is really sore, and it was obviously, it wasn't mechanical, it wasn't making any sense. So I was trying to help out with the thing that he had right at the time, and had a conversation. It's like, well, what else is going on? Because it's very possible that it sounds like your body is telling me that you have a lot of stress right now. And then, I've had more than a few clients and athletes break down and talk about it, and be like, and if you're a deer in the headlights with like zero knowledge, which, I've been there, mm-hmm. It's difficult, because you got to be able to, either have a network association for it, you don't have to provide them answers or anything like that, provide them with emotional support. But sometimes if you have the right knowledge, if you can just pick up on a few of the things, then you can help them, see the bigger picture, center them again, and go in the right direction. And, so it's, I don't want people to think that it can only happen in the model that I created for myself. These things, in any model that you want to work in, if you can figure out, if you have the right, network associations, the right information, you can create what you need to create for the time being. And if your idea is to break out and to be able to give hour sessions and do your own thing, then you can build that slowly, build your knowledge, and learn all of these things from the three different, areas, that mental and the health side and the physical ability side, and slowly build yourself out to exactly what it is that you want to practice, and have a 400 square foot facility on your own, or partner up with some people and get a small training studio. And I had a blast doing those things, because it's and it doesn't take as much as people think, so.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm following closely, still taking notes, and hope to sort of, continue these discussions, continue these dialogues. And I know one of the things that you and I talked about is also like just trying to have these types of conversations with more specific to us ATs, right? Because you've had a lot of experience, and this model is something that I'm just looking through who's here, and that none of us heard in school, right? It was like, oh, you don't have insurance. Yeah, you included. Yeah, we don't have, nobody has AT coverage. Okay, great. But nobody has personal training coverage. Nobody has gym coverage. Nobody has, a lot of people drive around without CAA and, whatever. There are still things that happen. And if you can sort of find a way to navigate and create a model, it's not to say like right out of school you need to do this. You need to get some experience for sure. There's no doubt about it. You need to understand what works, what doesn't work, and what works for you and what you want. And that can change, right? I think that's a key takeaway from what you said is that can change as you go. You love the university setting.
Fine,
Yeah. And I think not to put the pressure to be everything that you think you should be right away, or even 5 years in or 10 years in, or where you're at right now. Like that can always change. And that's sort of speaking from where I'm at right now, as I'm about to shift into something I haven't been in before, and in terms of doing some of what you're doing, creating a model that works for me, and leading with a lot of the things that you've touched on too. So a lot of really key insights here, and I know there's a lot of students and a lot of younger therapists currently on live and hopefully on archiving as well, because these are important conversations, and somebody like you can certainly help a lot of people if they're willing to reach out. I know you're willing to be open to discuss this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if there's anything that like people take away from this is if you got questions and you want to ask somebody that's been in it for a long time, like just shoot me a message. Like I'm more than willing to help people out and try and figure out, even if it's just a quick question or whatever. It's like I said before, if I can't answer it, I don't have the answer, I'll let you know. I think we all need to support each other. I know how difficult the athletic therapy thing can be, especially at the beginning. There's a lot of different directions you could go. A lot of times you could feel pigeonholed into something because you had the job you had to take or whatever. I've been through a lot of them. So if I can help somebody skirt some of the stuff that's not, that maybe you don't need to go through, that a little advice would help you avoid, or something that you're missing that'll launch you forward, then I'm more than willing to help.
Yeah, awesome. I'll open this up now for anybody who has any questions based on tonight or anything that we've talked about this evening. Either type it in, or like I mentioned, you can unmute and just have that dialogue audibly. If there isn't anything, then we'll just keep going, because I didn't ask you if you've watched Tiger King.
I knew that was coming too.
Have you watched it?
No.
Okay, that's a hard no. We're back in the no train. I think that I didn't get our other episode up yet because we've been away, but I think that makes it 2016, because Joey and Matt from the other night are a couple soccer guys gone pro in different ways. They were both no's. The 11 pillars. Do you have them off the top of your head? That's the 11 pillars.
So on the mental side of things, one of the first things I start with is what I call target, mindset, and focus. Mm-hmm. So one, I tend to go through these things. It's not like a bullet point list. You sort of need a little bit of explanation around them. Target, mindset, focus. One of the things that we tend to do as practitioners is like, what's the problem immediately in front of us, and let's just solve that. Well, you actually have to sort of split it up into these three things. Target is like, okay, where are you going? Like, what's, like the target immediately could be get out of pain, but like, what is it you do? And as a coach, if you're going to sort of take on a coaching role, even as an AT, and you want to get people from where they are to where they need to be, then you need to know where they need to be. So target is that. Mindset is what we talked about before, is setting them up for success, so that their motivation, short, medium, long term, is internal. And focus is you have to be constantly working what we talked about before, like teaching them what they should be focusing on, working the weakest link. If it's learning dissociation stuff, they need to know that a lot of the foundation stuff that you're going to teach them, they're going to carry through, The other thing in the second pillar would be stress management. So, if you're not the stress management guru, and there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of stress. You should have somebody in your network that deals with that. And the third one, I don't have it in front of me, escapes me right now, is I'll come back to it. It'll come back to me. So the second part, so the physical abilities, to me, has that timeline has 5 phases. One is you got to either allow tissue to heal, but tissue has to be set up. Rene Pelletier taught me this my first year in athletic therapy, creating a conducive environment for healing. You're not a healer. You're creating a conducive environment for healing, and you have to allow some time for that to heal. Creating, that's your phase 1. Phase 2, for me, which is would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th pillar or 5th component, is all of the stuff, the foundational stuff. When we talk about imbalances, you have to be assessing generally and correcting some of the imbalances that you're seeing. You could have a local imbalance from an injury or whatever. It behooves you to systemically look at the whole system and find out where those imbalances are and which ones are affecting them significantly. The next phase is blind postural awareness, what I call fundamentals, which is teaching them all the dissociation drills and the body control that they need. If you're not addressing, those first 3 things, then what you're doing is if you look at that timeline, because those are early phase, when I look at the timeline, if I had the visual in front of me, if you look at the timeline, if you start at the beginning where you're dealing with like incapacitated injury,
Mm-hmm.
You progress to a certain point where typically in the real world, people are about 80% better. It stops, therapy. They stop being able to justify paying for therapy in their heads, and they start to feel better and all that sort of stuff. Then there's this whole, what I call the gray zone. And at the end of the gray zone is where fitness starts. And what people are tending to do, and this is, and Scotty and Jamie are talking about this too, with the whole reconditioning thing, that in-between phase where you're dealing with imbalances, dissociation, and then the third component of that, creating a foundation, like an athletic foundation. What's happening in the real world is they're going from injury, skipping over that. And what happened to me as an athlete is I was training like I was in the performance zone when I was actually in the gray zone. Mm-hmm. And my disc blew out so bad that it was pushing my spinal cord out the other side of my back. And so, if you don't do those middle 3 phases, then you're not setting them up for success in the long run. So the last phase there is the athletic foundation. So to me, the athletic foundation is, if you're looking at in general, to set a very basic platform for people, they need to know 6 skills. They need to know how to squat. They need to know how to lift. They need to know how to push things, pull things, lift things up over their head, and pull things down. If they don't have those 6 basic tools, then again, you're putting them into the fitness or the performance zone, and they're ill prepared for it. So a lot of that stuff can be mechanically driven, and I start with what I call like building blocks, that sort of stuff, which is like some individual exercises, isolating some stuff to make sure they have control before we expand out, that sort of thing. And we build that athletic foundation. The last phase, the 5th phase in the athletic abilities, is where your imagination really needs to take hold. You've set a foundation. Where are they going? What outside of the standard basic stuff that they know now do they need to know? And an exercise program from that point on needs to address 2 things. It needs to address what their target is and how you're going to keep them balanced in the interim. Because the long-term game of this whole thing is to limit lost man hours. And if you're, your whole program should be set around those things. And every time they come across an obstacle, maybe you have to go back a little bit. But if you've already set up a great foundation, you're not going to be set back as far, even if they have a traumatic injury, so that's those phases. And then the last thing, the internal health thing, we look at sleep. So the sleep and recovery, make sure they're getting enough sleep and recovery. We look at nutrition, and I don't do diet plans. I do nutritional habits. So like what their life habits are.
Mm-hmm.
So my network association is somebody who actually does, detailed diet plans. I've never given a diet plan in my life because it's just not my milieu. But we teach that. So health, sleep, and nutrition, sleep, and how come the other one's escaping me? I have it right here. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah, no problem. You've identified a lot, and then like this long, you've spoken about all these things. And listen, the list isn't what matters. The idea is that you're covering these things, you're referring out, and you're advising on all of these things with your clients. And this is not just my knee hurts. All right, ultrasound. Here's an eccentric exercise for your knee. Here's a concentric exercise for your knee. Oh, and let's put some IFC, and then we'll put some ice on at the end, and now your knee's better. Okay, that's great. Here's your $150, and out the door you go. So I love this. I think this is great. I think it's great to hear all these things, but this again can't be addressed in one session, and it certainly can't be addressed in sort of like a fast moving get you in, get you out kind of model either, right?
No, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I progressed to this 12-month thing, is because I knew I couldn't make sure that all of those things were addressed, and know ethically that even if the client, like my whole goal is, I tell my clients, like, eventually you should be completely independent of me and never need me again.
That's it.
And if I can't set that up, or refer you to the right place after we've done the work that we need to do, then I personally, I feel like I'm failing them. So the ones that I missed, oh yeah, of course. So in the mindset, and this is where coaching comes in, is some sort of strategy. People, early in my career, people were asking, oh, do you have a good resource for this or a good resource for that? And so, this is early on, not early on in the internet, but like when information was really starting to become abundant. I'd be like, well, I don't really know a good resource, but I'll look for you.
Right.
I knew what I was talking about, and it was overwhelming, the information. For these people, it's just crazy. So, when you're looking at the athlete or the industrial athlete, whatever it is you want to call them, and you maybe can't see having to work with them for 12 months. Well, one of the things that you can help these people with is the life strategy after they're going to need to find times to train. They're going to need to find ways to train when they're traveling. They're going to need to know when it's okay not to train. Like they're going to need somebody to just talk to about, like, oh, I don't know how to fit all of this into my schedule. Okay, let's build a schedule then. There are some clients that I get to the 8th or 9th month, and that's all we do is we look at their schedule and be like, okay, so here's a 6-week schedule, and the next time you come in, we'll work on a couple of new things, whatever, or build a new program that fits with the schedule. And you need to give them some sort of strategy. And then the last component in health, obviously, is cardiovascular capacity. You need to be keeping your organs as clean and as efficient as possible is really the is the end all and be all of all of that. So
yes,
so that and that having those components, like right away, I'm sure there's people that say, yeah, I don't do that, and I don't do that. Yeah, great. Start making some phone calls. Make some phone calls and fill that space. Get paperwork. Get something so that when your client comes in and they need the answer to that you can provide them with a referral. a template, a something that keeps them connected to you. It's like, oh yeah, they gave me some great information. They referred me on to this thing, and it was the best thing that ever happened in my life. The best, now they've associated the best thing that ever happened in their life to the person that gave it to them. Not necessarily the service they got. They love that too. Oh yeah, I got this from, you know, whoever. Like James gave me this and it changed my life.
Yeah, I think this is all a really, really valuable set of rules to sort of live by, and you can tweak and cater them to your clientele or to how you want to align or these kinds of things. And I don't know, we had for the first time, I had a mobile vet come by the house today, which I didn't know existed. I mean, they exist in the Bahamas, at least during COVID. But when we brought this dog back, and this is the first time that we've sort of had access to a holistic vet. So she's a holistic vet, and she drove over with her tech, and they came into the yard, and we did everything outside. But she talked about just even some of the things that you've just talked about now. It's like, I'm paying you to come to my house. I'm paying you to evaluate my dog on like a holistic level. And this is not to say what you're doing. Well, it is. You're saying the same thing, you know? And so we're talking, we go through it, and the dog has this long history. But without that history, she can't make any decisions. So she's taking an hour-long visit, which if I had taken my dog to a regular vet would probably have been, I would have had to drop her on the sidewalk and hope that the dog could talk when it went inside to tell the history. And then, but anyway, so going through it, sort of transitioning over to the point of this, I guess, is like, okay, let's try a raw diet, because there's a lot of like allergens and like yeast buildup and bacteria here that's probably the cause. So try that. And she's like, I know you're going to say it's expensive, but it's a whole lot less expensive than doing blood work, allergen tests, X, Y, Z, coming to see me, going to see me 16 times. So it's really sort of shifting the focus to the value of it, right? Like to your value.
And also, if when you have a bunch of those things prepped, so like in the athletic therapy world, you know, it's great to have, you're going to get tons, you probably already have got tons of questions about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, should I be fasting? Should I be on keto? Should I, all of these things, you know, and you may not be the expert in it, but you know, that model of like, you know, okay, because I know your history really well, and I know what's going on, I know what the target is, let's try this. And if it turns out that it doesn't work, or it's not the ideal thing, it's not sustainable or whatever, they're still going to come back to you and see you as a coach and be like, okay, so we tried this. These are the elements that worked. These aren't. And, you know, here's some more information for you. Whereas if, you know, like if you're not armed with the right stuff, and where I, you know, see, you know, the vet, it's a good example, because you're not going anywhere else for your animal's health, right? You're going to your vet. Humans, that's not how it works. If depending on the problem you have, you could go to see one of 500 different people, and you need it to have a point person that to be an advocate for your client is one of the most valuable things that they'll ever have. And it's priceless to them.
Yeah, and I love where it was going and where you took it, because you know, a lot of clients, even a lot of humans, a lot of us, we talk to the people that are going to give us the answers we want to hear. So, you know, you as the service provider, or the coach in this case, is having those conversations up front. You can eliminate the people that are for yourself as well, so that you're going to have valuable relationships. You're not going to have the people who are going to complain about you behind your back, or are going to do all these kinds of things, or run you ragged for, you know, 17 sessions a week when they really only needed, you know, 2 or whatever it is. So this is a two-way street, and in a dog eat dog sort of world, it's amazing. And you also talked about like what's available to humans when you're on that, like, do I keto, do I do this, do I do that? Like right now is a pretty amazing time because of the resources that have been made available during COVID, but it's also like there is a lot of fluff, right? Like, and to you then get to be that exact thing. You can be the filter for this person who may or may not be able to filter it on their own, right? Because you have a system, you're going to,
and you can create this too. Like, within, like, if you're working at a larger facility and there's a bunch of team members, you know, sit down with everybody and say, like, you know, here's all the stuff that we need to cover. Who covers this? And, you know, like, have some sort of communication with each other, either inside a facility or outside. Like, if you're referring out, you don't just push people to somebody else. You need to communicate with that other pro, send a note, whatever it is, follow up with it. But even within your group, you know, have a little form, a little piece of paper that is like, yeah, you know, like, the next time you come, the client comes in, you're not going to see me. You're going to see her, because, you know, this is what you really need. And I'm going to give her a note that, you know, so she can work on this, because it's her expertise, not mine. And then I'll see you in a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they appreciate that stuff, because, you know, like, it's, and then when you go, every time I do that, you know, clients come back with, like, and I ask them, like, what did he or she say? And it's like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of great information, and they said to say hi, and here's a note from them, and all that sort of stuff. And it just develops the whole thing, and client loves it, the other pros love it. It's good for us. It's, you know, like, you're acting in the best interest of the clients.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. We had a really similar story time. We had a really fairly similar discussion a couple of weeks ago. I had a friend of mine who's in the same boat. I mean, he still works in pro sport, but he referred a guy. He said, like, listen, this injury just happened. Can you talk to him? He doesn't have anybody to talk to. He had a fairly significant injury, and I said, yeah, let him call me. Sure, no problem. And this was because somebody that I trusted enough in me to talk to somebody who he knew. And so this person calls me, and I said, yeah, let me see what I can do. Let me hang up the phone with you, and I'll call somebody that I know. And it becomes a matter more of, that referral network. And this is not even a client of mine or a client of his. It's just, this is somebody that we know who's in a tough spot, and we want to help them. Like, this is what, for me, this is what it comes down to. And it's become a big, a glaringly sort of obvious thing that was never so obvious to me in the past, I guess, or maybe just in these times, or in my learning, it really sort of spread my knowledge to a point where, okay, these are the most important things. After 10 or 12 years in the AT field and CSCS and all these things, I've now identified the most simplistic things, but the most valuable things to me. And so that doesn't have to be right out of school. And it definitely wasn't. And it didn't come from a course. It came from taking courses that aligned and challenged everything that I thought I knew. And I'm sure you're in the same boat, and it's amazing to see, you know. Anyway, the long story short is a guy called me for another guy, and the guy that originally called, he got the help he needed. He had surgery, you know, 3 days after he blew out his Achilles, and that doesn't happen in Ontario if you don't know somebody, you know. And so we picked up the phone. We used the referral networks to have that happen, and he was forever grateful, to the point he's like, hey, can I get both you guys to move down to Niagara, because I need you in Niagara. And it just so happens that he's a firefighter too, so the timing of this was just was a thing. I was like, you're gonna need an Achilles, because he's talking to people about, oh, I blew my Achilles and I didn't get surgery. And I was like, you're a firefighter without an Achilles, that's not gonna happen. So good information is good information, bad information is bad information, information is information. But this was all very good information tonight, Greg. Really appreciate your time. We're pushing an hour and a half. Are you still good? Because another question just came.
I got time. Yeah.
All right, cool. When do your courses usually run, and do you offer online courses or just in person?
So I'm transitioning it right now to partially online, offline.
Yep.
And you know, looking at it now, I sort of took a hiatus on it. I was going to run a course through April, May, June, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, we're just going to table it, see what's going on. Give me a chance to build the right online stuff to go with it. So probably looking at September.
Great.
But, you know, that being said, you know, if somebody just needs a little bit of guidance on how to start creating the right network or whatever, because the course itself is, it's extensive. We go through all the components, all the stuff that you could possibly learn. And, you know, and there's a ton of information in it. It's not like a regular CEU course. So be prepared to be overwhelmed with information. So the online model actually works really well, because There is a period of time that people, you need to take some of the information we have and integrate it into what you're doing. We need to be able to troubleshoot it based on people's situations.
Mm-hmm.
So in September, it'll probably look like 5 or 6 weeks online, and then get together depending on what's happening in the current environment. Get together for a weekend and go through some stuff or find some stuff, and certainly a bunch of challenges in it. I throw challenges at people and make sure that they're really, I want people to walk away from the course being really prepared for to take all of the knowledge they have and create what they need to create. So if they go to the website, it's right now, if you click on the, I think it's become an ALC, it'll prompt you to just get on the pre-sale list. So a pre-sale list is just, you're interested in learning this stuff, then I'll know that you're interested. And when I have something ready for September or October, I'll send the information out to people.
Love it, man. That's great. And you and I can stay in contact. The folks that are on here are generally the people that are on here on a regular basis. And Kat, who asked the questions, always got great questions and definitely a thirst for knowledge. So not that everybody else doesn't, but just that's who it is that was asking. And we can always filter back and forth, Greg, you and I, and
yeah, sure.
I'd like to talk about that one with you too, that course, and sort of some of the things that
the website right now is skilledbody.com.
Skilledbody.com. Yeah, perfect. And yeah, so I'll just put that in here just before I go. Skilledbody.com. Yeah. So that course and other courses and things that are coming up. I look forward to navigating this space with you a little bit in the future, and continuing to grow this bond, this network. And I think these avenues as well, like, not even just teaching a formal course for CEUs, but teaching a thinking process, teaching a philosophy, teaching a different outlook that you just, I mean, it's not fair to say that universities or AT school or Cairo or wherever should teach this stuff. This stuff comes after, right? This comes after years. They need to
set a foundation.
Yeah.
But what I think what does need to happen, I'd love to see not that I want somebody else doing it, I like doing it, but in the institutionals, the systems to at the end say, okay, so here's a plan to be able to develop your career now. Like, these are the foundational things that you're good at. Here is the whole thing, what it all looks like, and build your network. One of the reasons why Julie and I were in touch was because I told her I was willing to just go down to Sheridan and talk to her class about exactly that, about really, like, this is what the big picture sort of looks like. Wherever it is you see yourself fitting in, that's great. What direction you want to go in, we'll tell you what courses you want to take, what you want to do, and have some sort of short, long-term plan.
Yeah. She said the COVID crushed that, which
COVID did crush that.
Right, it's crushed a lot of things. But hey, if it allows for it, Julie, we'll Greg, I'll sit in on Greg's lecture too, because I'd love to hear that one there. And then I think you're right. I think it's finding these conversations, finding a way to build these conversations into either middle years of AT programs or the latter years of AT programs. Yep. You have all these skills. Let's analyze a little bit more what you like, what you don't like at this point, what your ideals are, these kinds of things, and then navigate it, help navigate that a little bit more. So really, really valuable stuff this evening, Greg. Again, really appreciate your time being on here, having access to you personally, and for everybody else that's on here. Thank you guys for being here. And this has been fantastic, 1,000%. And Greg, I know you're willing to be connected. So anybody who needs Greg's contact information, you can go through me or you can go through his website, accessible that way. And this has been Let's Chat, an Athletic Therapy Roundtable session 25 already. And this has been terrific. So thanks again for making the time and giving us access to your space, access to your intellectual space as well. And
well, James, thank you. having done a bunch of online stuff before, I built a website, we had a membership site, we did these kinds of things, reaching out to people and stuff. For those of you that are attending or watching this is a tremendous amount of work. And I know there's a lot of people that are really appreciating what you're doing, because it's not the simplest thing in the world to be able to put together a really good discussion and have it drive really well and be as organic as you want it. And you're doing a great job. This is something that'll help a lot of people, ATs, conditioning coaches. Like, we live in the world of AT, but this is for a lot of other pros too in the health world. So it's good on you for taking this on. It's not a simple task.
Man, I really appreciate it. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, and it's been great. Listen, it's been great for me too on a very selfish level too. Just connecting and making these networks and getting in touch with a lot of people. So I'll let you go for the night. Anybody who's willing to stick around, I got a couple more minutes here to hang out. Sunday night will be session 26. Mansur Roberts Jr. is a swim coach down in the Bahamas. He'll be on. Younger guy, very, very enthusiastic, very driven. He swam at a D1 school in his career, and him and I, like I mentioned, he's kind of didn't have a lot of infrastructure where he is currently. Doesn't have a lot of infrastructure when it comes to AT and S&C and these kinds of things. So it's looking at that amateur model a little bit. What would help coaches that need those kind of things? Can we coach coaches in areas? Can we get into that space and be there for that information? So the first year that I went down, that was a relationship that I built with him. And I did a lot of the S&C and just like the performance side of things with the higher end swimmers. And then just looked at his model and how he was developing swimmers in his program. So really cool conversation, I'm sure, to be had with him. Great guy, really driven. And that'll be Sunday night. So this has been Let's Chat session 25. Greg, thank you again. Everybody else, thank you again. Much love, and we will talk to you soon. Stopping recording now. Thanks again. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.